Well, it looks like the end of this week and the beginning of next week are going to be pretty busy in terms of the Ripple versus the SEC case, because we're awaiting a few decisions from Judge Netburn and Judge Torres on the Bill Hinman emails, as well as a couple other things. Also, and not only that, there's some decisions regarding the SEC's expert witness and how Ripple doesn't want that expert to submit the report and be considered for this trial. So we have that to look forward to in the next couple of days into next week. And as Jeremy Hogan pointed out, Tuesday is a deadline. So I'm going to tell you when we could expect it, on which days, and what they could mean. And in the rest of the crypto world, it looks like yet another cryptocurrency company is going belly up and filing for bankruptcy. This one is really interesting because it points out some of its creditors and how much money it actually owes them. So there's some really interesting takes on who owes them money and why they were actually borrowing that much money in the first place, including Sam Bankman-Fried, the owner of FTX Exchange. Also, ARK Invest, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest, has some really interesting thoughts on Bitcoin. In fact, one of their lead analysts, David Poole, was talking in an interview about the decoupling of Bitcoin from the S&P, from the NASDAQ, and I can tell you what he said is going to take for Bitcoin to actually become decoupled from the tech stocks. Hey everyone, my name is Randy, and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel, we are covering cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Late Night Grind community. Also, if you would do three things: smash the thumbs up button, watch the video all the way to the end, and check out the link to my Patreon. There's a link in the description below. Brand new content that you're gonna want to check out. So if you do all those things, I'd really appreciate it. All right, guys, let's jump into it. First, I wanted to talk about what happened to Voyager Digital, which is yet another lending platform to face solvency issues and eventually go into bankruptcy. They actually filed their bankruptcy a few days ago, and so that paperwork is now public. Some of the people on Twitter, as well as CNBC, were actually covering this bankruptcy case, and it was really interesting to see who actually owes them money. One of the most notable, of course, was Three Arrows Capital, which owed some $700 million. They are, of course, now belly up. The other one, which was kind of surprising, is Alameda Research. Now, Alameda Research is actually FTX Exchange. Sam Bankman-Fried, the owner of FTX Exchange, runs that. It is shown on the record that he owes approximately $276 million to a lending platform that just went belly up. Now, FTX is worth billions. So if they have that much liquidity, why would he need to borrow that much? Well, apparently what Sam Bankman-Fried did was got about $500 million worth of credit in cash and Bitcoin from this lending platform. Now, Dylan LeClaire, who's actually one of the lead analysts at Bitcoin Magazine, he was speculating on Twitter that he might have actually been doing this basically to borrow spot Bitcoin in order to short the market. Now, in a trading terms, that's basically a very smart move, although it looks kind of shady from an average trader's perspective. But some people were saying this is actually quite normal for other exchanges to borrow massive amounts of coin in other venture capital firms in order to do this. However, if they do it on leverage and they're doing it on basically the falling value of Bitcoin, well, this is what leads to solvency issues and all of these bankruptcy filings. So at the time being, I don't believe FTX Exchange is in any trouble, but it's just something to look out for because Sam Bankman-Fried's been coming up in the news quite a bit. So before I get into what we're going to talk about with the Ripple versus the SEC case, I wanted to mention a couple of things that David Poole, who was with ARK Invest, has to say about Bitcoin. Now, ARK Invest, this is Cathie Wood's ARK Invest. Now, if you remember what Cathie Wood has been saying, she's very bullish on pretty much anything Elon Musk, very heavy on tech stocks, believes very much that AI is going to be the future. Cryptocurrency is going to be the future. In fact, she's out actually on record as putting a prediction out saying Bitcoin's going to be well over $500,000 within the next 5 to 10 years. So that's something to look out for. But one of her lead analysts was talking about how Bitcoin could become decoupled from the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. Right now, if you watch charts on a daily basis, you can see whenever Bitcoin has a pump up or down, it typically mirrors what the S&P, the NASDAQ, and of course what the dollar index is doing. Now, in the case of the dollar index, basically does the inverse. But what he was saying is that right now there are too many investors, too many institutional investors that are looking at things like total market cap rather than a fundamental analysis of an actual asset or a commodity, in this case Bitcoin. And he said once investors start to do that, you're going to see large investors see these assets for what they really are and not treat them like, a tech company. So ARK Invest, so David Poole, ARK Invest, they believe that there will be a decoupling of Bitcoin from the rest of those tech stocks and as essentially a commodity. I believe that day is coming as well. All right, now let's jump into some of the Ripple versus the SEC information. I reported on one of my last videos that Ripple is hiring 2 new attorneys. Now, they actually put in motions to be able to work specifically on this case, even though they're not registered to work in New York. Well, those motions were actually denied. But don't fret, it's not a big deal. The only thing they had to do was get them notarized because they submitted them the first time without being notarized. James K. Filan on Twitter updated and said they have resubmitted with notarization, and as soon as I see that they have been approved, I will definitely make note in my next video. So regardless, it looks like the next couple of days is going to be, could be a pretty active session because Jeremy Hogan said, he's actually on record. He was quoted in You Today News talking about these decisions that the judges have to make on the Hinman emails and that he expects them by the end of the week. He said because next Tuesday is actually a deadline in which some other motions have to be decided upon, most notably the expert witness that the SEC is trying to bring in, that Ripple is trying to essentially block and object to. Those are due next Tuesday, so Jeremy says it's, in his opinion, it could be by the end of this week that we could see some decisions on the Hinman emails. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know that I believe, and many people following this case believe, and know that the Bill Hinman emails are the most important factor in this case right now. Now, if you watch my last video, I talk about these attorneys that Ripple is hiring, and one of them actually has a lot of previous experience working with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals as well as the DC Court of Appeals. In other words, somebody who knows the appeal process. I think Ripple is preparing for the SEC's coming actions, which is probably appeal, hence delay. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of days and hopefully receiving some of those judgments and seeing the details of that. And not just that, Jeremy Hogan thinks that Ripple's objection to the SEC's expert is going to be a doozy, as he puts it on Twitter. So as soon as that comes out, I will definitely be following it. And if you want to make sure to follow this story and any of the others that I cover, make sure you subscribe to the Late Night Grind Community YouTube channel. And if you're a little bit more interested in some of the investment side, some of the speculative side, maybe some of the technical analysis side, go check out my Patreon. I have something there that I believe is going to be extremely bullish the next couple of weeks. Go ahead and check it out. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end, for smashing that thumbs up button. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.